The oneironaut's journey. Chapter 1. The awakening. Ethan Caldwell jolted awake, his heart racing and sweat beading on his forehead. The vivid nightmare that had gripped him moments ago was already fading, leaving behind only a lingering sense of unease. He glanced at the glowing numbers on his bedside clock. 3:17 a.m. With a sigh, he swung his legs over the side of the bed and padded to the bathroom. As he splashed cold water on his face, Ethan stared at his reflection in the mirror. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, a testament to the restless nights that had plagued him for weeks. At 32, he looked older than his years, the strain of his demanding job as a sleep researcher etched into the lines on his face. Returning to bed, Ethan knew sleep would elude him for the rest of the night. He reached for his journal, a habit he had developed to document his dreams and experiments in lucid dreaming. As he flipped through the pages filled with scribbled notes and diagrams, a thought struck him. What if he could use his knowledge of lucid dreaming to help others? Little did Ethan know that this simple question would set him on a path that would change his life and the lives of countless others forever. Chapter 2. The Discovery. The next evening, Ethan settled into bed with a sense of purpose. He had spent the day researching advanced lucid dreaming techniques, determined to push the boundaries of what he thought possible. As he drifted off to sleep, he focused on his intention: to become aware within his dream and explore its limits. Suddenly, Ethan found himself standing in a vast, shimmering landscape. The ground beneath his feet pulsed with an ethereal energy, and the sky above was a kaleidoscope of swirling colors. He raised his hand, marveling at the clarity of his perception. This was no ordinary lucid dream. As he moved through this dreamscape, Ethan became aware of a presence nearby. Turning, he saw a figure in the distance, hazy and indistinct. Curious, he approached, and as he drew closer, the figure came into focus. It was a woman, her features etched with worry and fear. "Hello?" Ethan called out, surprised to hear his voice echoing in this strange realm. The woman turned, startled. "Who are you? What are you doing in my dream?" Ethan's mind reeled. Her dream? How was this possible? He had never encountered another dreamer in his lucid experiences before. I'm not sure," he stammered. "My name is Ethan. I'm a lucid dreamer, but I've never been in someone else's dream before." The woman's expression shifted from fear to curiosity. "I'm Sarah," she said. "I've been having terrible nightmares for months. I can never seem to escape them." As if triggered by her words, the dreamscape around them began to darken. Ominous shapes loomed in the distance, and a chill wind whipped around them. Sarah's face contorted in terror. "It's starting again," she whispered. Without thinking, Ethan reached out and took her hand. "It's okay," he said, his voice steady and calm. "This is a dream, and we can control it. Focus on something positive, something that makes you feel safe and happy." Sarah closed her eyes, her brow furrowed in concentration. Slowly, the darkness receded, and the menacing shapes faded away. In their place, a beautiful garden materialized, filled with vibrant flowers and the soothing sound of a bubbling stream. Sarah opened her eyes, wonder replacing the fear on her face. "How did you do that?" "We did it together," Ethan replied, amazed at what had just transpired. "By focusing on positive thoughts and emotions, we changed the dream." As the dream began to fade, Ethan felt himself being pulled back to consciousness. The last thing he saw was Sarah's grateful smile before he awoke in his own bed, his mind buzzing with the implications of what he had just experienced. Chapter 3. The Decision. For days, Ethan could think of nothing but his encounter with Sarah in the dream world. He threw himself into his research, poring over ancient texts on dreamwalking and modern studies on shared dreaming experiences. The more he learned, the more he became convinced that what he had experienced was real, and that it held the potential to help people in ways he had never imagined. One evening, as Ethan was leaving the sleep lab where he worked, he ran into his colleague and friend, Dr. Maya Chen. She took one look at his haggard appearance and raised an eyebrow. "Ethan, you look like you haven't slept in days. What's going on?" He hesitated for a moment before deciding to confide in her. Over coffee in a nearby cafe, Ethan recounted his experience in Sarah's dream. To his surprise, Maya listened without judgment, her expression thoughtful. "You know," she said when he had finished, "there have been some intriguing studies on shared dreaming experiences. It's a controversial area, but what you're describing, it could be groundbreaking." Ethan leaned forward, excitement bubbling up inside him. "You believe me?" Maya smiled. "I believe that you believe it, and I think it's worth exploring further." "But Ethan," her expression grew serious, "you need to be careful. If word gets out about this before you have solid evidence, it could ruin your career." Her words gave Ethan pause. He had been so caught up in the possibilities that he hadn't considered the risks. But as he thought about Sarah and the relief on her face when the nightmare had been transformed, he knew he couldn't turn back now. "I have to do this, Maya," he said softly. "If there's even a chance that I can help people overcome their nightmares and find peace in their sleep, I have to try." Maya studied him for a long moment before nodding. "Okay, but you're not doing this alone. I'm in." With Maya's support, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. That night, as he prepared for bed, he set his intention clearly in his mind: to find Sarah again and learn more about this newfound ability. As he drifted off to sleep, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing on the precipice of something extraordinary, a journey that would take him deep into the uncharted territories of the human mind. Chapter 4: The Training. Weeks passed, and Ethan dedicated every spare moment to honing his skills. He and Maya set up a makeshift dream lab in his apartment, using EEG machines borrowed from their workplace to monitor his brain activity during sleep. Night after night, Ethan ventured into the dream world, learning to navigate its ever-shifting landscape with increasing confidence. He encountered Sarah several more times, and together they practiced techniques to control and shape the dreamscape. Ethan was amazed by the rapid progress she made in overcoming her nightmares. But it wasn't just Sarah he was able to help. As his abilities grew stronger, Ethan found himself drawn to other dreamers in distress, instinctively sensing their fear and anguish across the vast expanse of the dream realm. One night, Ethan found himself in the dream of a young boy named Alex. The child was trapped in a loop of a traumatic memory, a car accident that had taken his father's life. Ethan approached carefully, his heart aching for the boy's pain. "Hey there," he said gently, kneeling beside Alex. "My name's Ethan. I'm here to help." Alex looked up, tears streaming down his face. "I can't make it stop," he whispered. "It keeps happening over and over." Ethan placed a comforting hand on the boy's shoulder. "I know it hurts, Alex, but remember, this is a dream. You have the power to change it. Let's try something, okay?" Together, they worked to transform the scene of the accident. Ethan guided Alex in visualizing a peaceful meadow where he could talk to his father one last time, say the things he never got to say in life. As the dream shifted, Ethan watched in awe as Alex embraced the image of his father, their forms glowing with a soft, healing light. When Ethan awoke, he felt a profound sense of purpose. He knew that what he was doing was more than just an experiment, it was a calling. But with this realization came new challenges. The more time Ethan spent in the dream world, the more difficult it became to maintain his waking life. He was constantly exhausted, his work at the sleep lab suffering as a result. Maya grew increasingly concerned, urging him to take breaks and find balance. "You can't help others if you destroy yourself in the process," she warned him one day after he nearly collapsed from exhaustion. Ethan knew she was right, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he was racing against time. Every night brought new encounters with dreamers in need, and the pull to help them was almost overwhelming. As he struggled to find equilibrium between his waking life and his dream quests, Ethan couldn't help but wonder, was there a cost to this gift he had discovered? And if so, how high a price would he ultimately have to pay? Chapter 5: The Nightmare Eater. As Ethan's abilities grew, so did the complexity of the dreams he encountered. He found himself drawn to increasingly dark and twisted nightmares, sensing that these were the dreamers who needed his help the most. But with each harrowing experience, he felt a piece of himself being left behind in the dream world. One particularly challenging case involved a woman named Lydia, whose nightmares were so intense that they had driven her to the brink of madness. When Ethan entered her dream, he was immediately assaulted by a maelstrom of terrifying images and sounds. At the center of the chaos, he found Lydia curled into a fetal position, her hands clamped over her ears. "Lydia," Ethan called out, fighting against the howling wind of the nightmare. "I'm here to help you. You don't have to face this alone." As he reached out to her, a monstrous figure emerged from the shadows. It was a creature of pure nightmare fuel, with multiple writhing limbs and a maw filled with razor-sharp teeth. Ethan realized with a start that this was a manifestation of Lydia's deepest fears, a nightmare eater that had been feeding off her terror for years. The creature lunged at Ethan, but he stood his ground, drawing on all the techniques he had learned. He focused his will, creating a shield of light around himself and Lydia. The nightmare eater howled in frustration, unable to penetrate the barrier. "Lydia," Ethan said urgently, "this thing feeds on your fear, but it's not real. It only has the power you give it. You can fight back." Slowly, Lydia uncurled herself and looked up at Ethan. In her eyes, he saw a flicker of hope amidst the terror. "How?" she whispered. "Focus on something that makes you feel strong," Ethan instructed. "A memory, a person, anything that gives you courage." As Lydia closed her eyes in concentration, Ethan felt the dream shifting around them. The howling wind died down, and pinpricks of light began to appear in the darkness. Suddenly, Lydia stood up, her form glowing with an inner light. "Enough," she said, her voice ringing with newfound strength. "You have no power over me anymore." The nightmare eater shrieked and lunged again. But this time, Lydia raised her hand. A beam of pure white light shot from her palm, enveloping the creature. It writhed and thrashed, slowly disintegrating until nothing remained but wisps of shadow that quickly faded away. As the nightmare dissolved around them, replaced by a calm, starlit sky, Lydia turned to Ethan with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she breathed. "I've been trapped for so long." Ethan smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. "You did it yourself, Lydia. You had the strength all along. You just needed to remember it." As the dream faded and Ethan returned to consciousness, he felt a profound sense of accomplishment. But there was something else too, a heaviness in his chest, as if he had absorbed some of the darkness he had helped Lydia banish. Sitting up in bed, Ethan rubbed his eyes, trying to shake off the lingering effects of the intense dream. He glanced at his reflection in the mirror across the room and froze. For a moment, just a split second, he thought he saw a shadow pass across his face, a darkness that didn't belong there. Blinking hard, Ethan looked again, but his reflection was normal. Still, A seed of unease had been planted. Was he imagining things, or was there a cost to his nighttime adventures that he hadn't anticipated? Chapter 6: The Toll. As days turned into weeks, Ethan's forays into the dream world began to take a visible toll. Dark circles deepened under his eyes, and he lost weight, his clothes hanging loosely on his frame. But it wasn't just his physical appearance that was changing. Ethan found himself struggling to connect with the waking world, his mind constantly drifting to the vivid experiences of his dream quests. Maya watched her friend's transformation with growing alarm. One afternoon, she cornered him in the lab, determination etched on her face. "Ethan, this has to stop," she said firmly. "You're burning yourself out. When was the last time you had a full night's sleep without entering someone else's dream?" Ethan ran a hand through his disheveled hair, avoiding Maya's gaze. "I can't stop, Maya. You don't understand. There are so many people out there who need help. Every night, I feel their pain, their fear. How can I turn my back on them?" Maya's expression softened. "I know you want to help, but you can't save everyone. Not at the cost of your own well-being." As if to underscore her point, Ethan swayed slightly, steadying himself against the lab bench. Maya reached out to support him, her worry evident. "Look," she said gently, "I've been doing some research. There are legends in various cultures about dreamwalkers, people with abilities similar to what you're experiencing. But many of these stories don't end well. The dreamwalkers become lost between worlds, unable to distinguish reality from dream." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. He had been so focused on helping others that he hadn't considered the long-term consequences of his actions. "What are you saying, Maya?" She took a deep breath. "I'm saying that if you keep going like this, you might lose yourself. We need to find a way for you to use your gift safely. Or," she trailed off, but Ethan could fill in the blank, "or he'd have to stop altogether." The thought sent a pang of anguish through him. How could he abandon those who needed him? That night, as Ethan prepared for bed, he felt torn. Part of him knew Maya was right. He couldn't continue at this pace. But the pull of the dream world was strong, the needs of the dreamers calling to him like a siren song. As he drifted off to sleep, Ethan made a decision. He would take one last journey into the dream realm, to say goodbye to those he had helped and to find closure. Little did he know that this final quest would be his most challenging yet. Chapter 7: The Labyrinth of Dreams. Ethan found himself standing at the entrance of a vast labyrinth. The walls shifted and changed color, pulsing with an otherworldly energy. He knew instinctively that this was no ordinary dream. It was a convergence of multiple dreamers' subconscious minds, a place where the boundaries between individual dreams blurred. As he stepped into the labyrinth, Ethan heard whispers echoing off the walls. Fragments of fears, hopes, and memories swirled around him like leaves in a whirlwind. He recognized some of the voices: Sarah, Alex, Lydia, but there were countless others, some filled with terror, others with wonder. Ethan moved deeper into the maze, drawn by an unseen force. The passages twisted and turned, sometimes leading him to dead ends, other times opening up into vast chambers filled with surreal landscapes. In one room, he found himself walking on the ceiling of a Victorian parlor. In another, he waded through a sea of golden sand that sang softly as it shifted beneath his feet. As he navigated this strange dream space, Ethan encountered fragments of the dreamers he had helped. Sarah stood in a garden of glowing flowers, smiling peacefully. Alex played catch with the image of his father, their laughter echoing through the maze. Lydia, once tormented by nightmares, now walked confidently through a corridor of mirrors, each reflection showing a stronger version of herself. These visions filled Ethan with a bittersweet joy. He had made a difference in these people's lives, but now it was time to let go. As he prepared to bid them farewell, a cold wind swept through the labyrinth, extinguishing the warm glow of the positive dreams. The walls of the maze began to darken, taking on a sinister aspect. Ethan felt a presence growing stronger, something ancient and malevolent that had been drawn to the power of the converged dreams. He realized with a start that this entity was what had been causing the shadow he had glimpsed in his own reflection. A voice, deep and resonant, echoed through the labyrinth. "Ah, the Dreamwalker. We've been waiting for you." Ethan spun around, trying to locate the source of the voice. "Who are you? What do you want?" The darkness coalesced into a towering figure, its form constantly shifting like smoke. "We are the Nightmare Collective," it said, its voice a chorus of whispers. "We feed on the fears and doubts of dreamers, and you, little oneironaut, have been disrupting our feast." Ethan stood his ground, though he could feel the weight of the entity's malevolence pressing down on him. "I won't let you torment these people," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. The Nightmare Collective laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You don't have a choice. You've wandered too far into our realm. Your connection to the waking world is fading. Soon, you'll be trapped here, and your power will be ours to consume." With horror, Ethan realized the entity was right. He could feel his grip on reality slipping, memories of his waking life becoming hazy and indistinct. Had he already been here for hours? Days? Time seemed to have lost all meaning. But as he felt himself beginning to fade, Ethan thought of Maya, of her warning and her concern. He thought of all the dreamers he had helped, of the strength they had found within themselves. Drawing on these memories, Ethan felt a surge of resolve. "No," he said, his voice growing stronger. "I am not yours to consume, and neither are the dreamers you prey upon." Ethan closed his eyes, concentrating with all his might. He visualized his connection to the waking world, his apartment, the sleep lab, Maya's worried face. As he did so, he felt a warmth spreading through him, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. The Nightmare Collective hissed in frustration. "You cannot escape us. We are eternal, born from the fears of all humanity." "You're right," Ethan said, opening his eyes. They glowed with an inner light. "Fear is a part of being human, but so is hope and courage and the ability to overcome our darkest moments." As he spoke, the dreamers he had helped began to appear around him. Sarah, Alex, Lydia, and countless others. They stood tall, their own eyes shining with the same inner light. "We are not alone in our fears," Ethan continued, his voice ringing through the labyrinth. "And when we face them together, they lose their power over us." The dreamers joined hands, forming a circle around Ethan. As they did, a wave of pure, white light burst forth, washing over the Nightmare Collective. The entity shrieked, its smoky form dissipating under the onslaught of positive energy. As the light faded, Ethan found himself standing in a vast, peaceful meadow. The dreamers smiled at him, their forms beginning to fade as they returned to their own dreams. "Thank you," Sarah said, her voice echoing as she disappeared. "You showed us the way, but we found the strength within ourselves." One by one, the dreamers vanished, leaving Ethan alone in the tranquil dreamscape. He felt a profound sense of peace, but also a pulling sensation, the waking world calling him back. As the dream began to fade, Ethan made a promise to himself. He would continue to help others, but he would do so with the wisdom he had gained. He would teach dreamers to find their own strength, to support each other in facing their fears. And most importantly, he would remember to take care of himself, to maintain the balance between the dream world and waking life. With this resolution firm in his mind, Ethan allowed himself to be drawn back to consciousness. Chapter 8. Awakening. Ethan's eyes fluttered open, squinting against the soft morning light filtering through his bedroom curtains. For a moment, he lay still, reorienting himself to the waking world. The vivid events of his dream journey felt both distant and incredibly real, like a half-remembered childhood memory. A gentle beeping drew his attention, and he turned to see the EEG machine Maya had set up to monitor his brain activity. Beside it, slumped in an armchair, was Maya herself. She had clearly stayed the night, watching over him. As if sensing his gaze, Maya stirred, her eyes widening as she saw Ethan awake. "Ethan!" she exclaimed, rushing to his bedside. "You're back. How do you feel?" Ethan sat up slowly, taking stock of his body and mind. To his surprise, he felt more rested than he had in months. The heaviness that had been weighing on him was gone, replaced by a sense of clarity and purpose. "I feel good," he said, a note of wonder in his voice. "Better than good, actually. Like I've finally found balance." Maya's face broke into a relieved smile, but her eyes remained concerned. "What happened in there? Your brain activity was off the charts. I was worried I'd have to wake you." Ethan took a deep breath and began to recount his journey through the labyrinth of dreams, his encounter with the Nightmare Collective, and the realization he had come to. As he spoke, Maya listened intently, her expression shifting from concern to amazement. When he finished, Maya sat back, shaking her head in wonder. "It's incredible, Ethan. You've made a breakthrough that could revolutionize our understanding of dreams and consciousness." Ethan nodded, but his expression was thoughtful. "It is incredible," he agreed, "but it's also dangerous. I came close to losing myself in there, Maya. If I hadn't remembered what you said, if I hadn't had that connection to pull me back." He trailed off, not wanting to contemplate what might have happened. Maya reached out and squeezed his hand. "But you did remember. You found your way back, and now you know how to help others do the same." Ethan smiled, feeling a surge of gratitude for his friend's unwavering support. "You're right, and I think I know how we can use this knowledge to help people in a safer, more sustainable way." Over the next few hours, Ethan and Maya brainstormed, sketching out plans for a new kind of therapy that combined lucid dreaming techniques with traditional psychological approaches. They would teach people to become aware in their dreams, to face their fears and traumas in a controlled environment, and to support each other in the process. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had been given a gift, and now he knew how to use it responsibly. There would be challenges ahead, of course: skepticism from the scientific community, ethical considerations to navigate, and the ever-present risk of losing oneself in the dream world. But as he looked at Maya, saw the excitement and determination in her eyes that mirrored his own, Ethan knew they were up to the task. Together, they would explore the frontiers of the human mind, helping people find healing and strength in the vast, uncharted territories of their dreams. As they left Ethan's apartment to head to the lab, eager to begin their work, Ethan paused for a moment. He closed his eyes, sensing the thin veil between waking and dreaming. In his mind, he sent out a message of gratitude to all the dreamers who had been part of his journey, and to the dream world itself. "Thank you," he whispered, "for showing me the way." With that, Ethan opened his eyes, ready to face whatever adventures, both waking and dreaming, lay ahead. Epilogue: The Dream Clinic. 5 years later, Ethan stood at the entrance of the Dream Clinic, a state-of-the-art facility that combined sleep research with innovative dream therapy. What had started as a small experiment had grown into a groundbreaking institution, attracting patients and researchers from around the world as he watched people entering the clinic, some with hope in their eyes, others with the weary look of those long plagued by nightmares. Ethan felt a deep sense of satisfaction. They had helped so many people over the years, teaching them to navigate their dreams, to face their fears, and to find strength they never knew they possessed. Maya joined him, clipboard in hand. "Ready for another day, Dr. Caldwell?" she asked with a smile. Ethan nodded, returning her smile. "Always, Dr. Chun. What's on the agenda?" As Maya began to run through the day's schedule, Ethan's mind drifted briefly to the dream world. He could still feel its pull, the vast ocean of human consciousness that lay just beyond the veil of sleep. But now, instead of being swept away by its currents, he had learned to navigate its waters with skill and purpose. The journey had not been easy. There had been setbacks, moments of doubt, and nights when the line between waking and dreaming blurred dangerously. But with each challenge, Ethan and his team had grown stronger, their understanding of the dream world deepening. As they walked into the clinic, Ethan felt a familiar sense of excitement. Each day brought new discoveries, new opportunities to help people unlock the power of their dreams. And while he no longer walked alone in the dreamscapes of others, he knew that in teaching people to become their own dream guides, he was doing something far more valuable. The Dream Clinic was more than just a place of healing. It was a bridge between worlds, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, and a beacon of hope for those lost in the labyrinth of their own minds. As Ethan prepared to meet his first patient of the day, he smiled to himself. The journey of the oneironaut was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning. The end,